hiring a government employee. Jobs with the federal government are effectively jobs for life. You can't fire folks, and for many reasons, they will not quit. Almost half of government employees don't have to come to work. One of the reasons they won't quit. Roughly 1.1 million federal workers get to work from home. Think about that. You go to work, you work hard, you pay your taxes to pay people to stay at home. Trump's government efficiency department thinks they have figured out, the brain trust there, Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy, they think they have figured out how to get government workers to quit.
You want a mass firing, a mass exodus? Just tell them they have to come back 5 days a week from 8 p.m. to 6 p.m. Like many Americans, most Americans who work hard to earn a living in this country, just show up physically to work. You'd actually have about a 25% thinning out of the federal bureaucracy right there. So that's an easy first step.
With us now, Jessica Kriegel, Chief Strategy Officer of Workforce and Labor at Culture Partners. You can also check out her podcast, Culture Leaders, the masters behind movements. And there's an intersection here, right, of culture and working and different generations' view of what work is and how important it is. I'm sort of stunned that I think I'm saying this, but I think Vivek Ramaswamy is actually underestimating me. Maybe the first time in history he's underestimated something. What, you think 50% of people would quit if you said you had to come back Monday to Friday, 8 hours a day, be in the office?
I think it would be less than 50%, frankly, but I think that they're not only relying on forcing people back into the office to get rid of them. They are going to, by executive action, defund regulations and the enforcement of regulations that they think have been an overreach. And so they're not going to have to fire these people. There's just not going to be any money for them there. And the people who are going to be forced back into the office, if we look at corporate America as a precedent, there is attrition that happens when companies force their employees back to the office. And I think CEOs who have done that have counted on that attrition. The difference here is I think it's maybe even refreshing that they're saying this is our intention and we welcome those people to quit. At least it's transparent, which I think a lot of CEOs aren't.
It's interesting you say that. So you're saying that when CEOs say you have to come back to the office, they're playing hide the ball, that this is a way to weed out employees?
Absolutely, because the idea that the reason they would force people back into the office is for, quote, culture is really silly. Culture doesn't happen in the four walls of your office. Culture is how people think and act to get results. And I can think and act to get results and be highly productive in a virtual environment if I'm being measured on outcomes and there is an accountable culture and accountable management. In a bureaucracy, there's less accountability, right? Because there's less competition, there's less consequences for failure, and so accountability goes down, and as a result, the way that people think and act isn't necessarily for results, and that's what they're trying to address.
It's a fascinating way of looking at it. D.C. has some of the top remote work in the country, no surprise. Cary, North Carolina, 41%. Frisco, Texas, 40%. Bellevue, Washington, I guess Microsoft, 39%. Washington, D.C., 34%. There's this argument, right, that people are happier when they work from home because they don't have to sit in traffic. They're more productive because they're happier, on and on and on. To me, it seems more like a generational thing, that somehow Gen Z especially views work as optional or somehow like something they don't really care as much. Therefore, working from home and having those perks are more important almost than having a job.
I mean, you're not alone in believing that. A lot of leaders no, you're not alone, but people believe that young people don't care today, that they just don't want to work anymore. That's not necessarily the case. A lot of the time, it's a failing of leadership to paint the vision, to get them motivated, to hold them accountable. It's hard to be a leader, and most leaders don't know how to do that effectively. I actually have a TED Talk on this. It's called How to Get People to Give a Hoot, although it's a different word than hoot. So look that up if you want more information on how to figure that out.
Our buddy Bill O'Reilly would call it how to give a deuce, would be his.
There you go.
would be his way. Hey, this was a great conversation. Thank you for hanging out with us on a Friday night. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, Leland.
All right, love it. Anyone surprised by Donald Trump's election? Well, maybe